I would first like to thank the organizers for the invitation and for this decision and ambition to once again bring together leading representatives from politics, diplomacy, business and academia to discuss vitally important issues for our future. I especially liked the title of this year's forum. It leads me back to my profession and the three main questions in navigation. Where am I? Where do I want to go? And how do I get there? The issue in the aviation is even more complicated because you don't have, your fuel is limited. And if you don't have clear answers to these questions at any time, catastrophe is inevitable. And I would like to share that this is my feeling, but for a long time in Europe, we have lived with the understanding and assurance and conviction, I could say, that we have unlimited amount of fuel and time, and we can roam with no clear answer to these questions. But many events indicated that we are running low on fuel and we need to switch off the autopilot and take the control in our own hands. The dynamics in geopolitical processes has been gaining previously unseen speed. The security architecture is falling apart. The war in Ukraine has been aggravated. Long-established business models are cracking up, and stagnation has embedded itself in leading European economies. At the backdrop of rising authoritarian ambitions and new risks imposed by the artificial intelligence. Although slowly, I believe, but Europe is making its way out of lethargy. Mario Draghi's scathing report suggests safety measures for the European economy. But to speak about competitiveness, it is extremely difficult while war is raging in the heart of Europe. And we need yet to solve existential problems, reinstating peace and guaranteeing security in Europe. But to be able that our efforts to bear fruit, we must sharpen our strategic judgment and strike the balance of the main instruments of power: economic, military, and diplomatic. And it is not enough anymore just to address the problems. We need to explore the very reasons about these problems and the events following. And above all, we need to find answers to numerous tough questions. Why did we allow to lag behind in innovations and technologies compared to the other global players? Why did we allow the energy crisis? And why are gas and energy prices in Europe much more expensive than the United States and China, for instance? Why is it difficult, impossible even, for the European Union to take fast decisions? Could we have prevented the war in Ukraine? Why is Russia continuing producing 3 times more munitions? As NATO Secretary General also stated, despite the smashing economic superiority of the collective West. And very important question, why instead of building solid defense lines to preserve its potential and territory, Ukraine was encouraged by many leaders to launch a counteroffensive operation with the utopian assurance of defeating Russia. Given that all the principles of operational art and the necessary preconditions for effective and successful offensive have been defined by Clausewitz some 200 years ago. And it was crystal clear that Ukraine did not meet these preconditions. And who will bear responsibility for the crash of this venture that led to devastating human losses, destruction of Ukrainian military potential, and ensuing loss of territories? And why are we not capable of convincing the global South state leaders to not buy energy resources from Russia, rendering sanctions void, and legitimizing Russia by visiting it personally at BRICS events? And why we have been constantly convinced that the collapse of Russian economy is a matter of months after yet another package of sanctions. And this has been going for the last 10 years. And will we allow for Russia and the United States to negotiate peace for Europe without Europe? These questions are not easy, but rather painful. Answering them requires high level of competence, expertise, a comprehensive and objective analysis, and above all, it requires moral strength and honesty. NATO and the European Commission have already called for increasing defense expenditure. It would hardly reach 5% of somebody's wish, but even 1% increase of GDP for defense is an immense challenge to the budget of many European countries. Therefore, this ambition raises reasonable concerns. Can Europe afford this? And will the European social state be spent for the continent's rearmament? I believe that we can afford to increase our defense expenditures, but only if we follow certain principles leading to cohesion between all the member states. I remember the NATO summit in London, 2019, when the main topic was the fair burden sharing, with the main goal that each member state must achieve 2% of GDP for defense. When it came to my turn to take the floor, I asked the following question: how fair is the fair burden sharing? Because the big countries which produce their own military equipment, they invest these 2% in their own economies. However, the smaller countries like Bulgaria, Greece, Romania, North Macedonia, all we take out these 2% from our economies and social systems and invest them in the economies of these big, rich countries. And thus I continued the technological and economic gap between us, the allies, grows. And I don't want to see NATO, the most powerful defense organization based on shared values, I don't see it turning into a marketplace and split into sellers and buyers, I continued. And I suggested that each purchase of defense equipment for these big countries should go with strong industrial cooperation. And we need to collaborate, all of us, all the member states, throughout the whole cycle, from the design to the manufacturing of defense equipment. And in the discussions that followed, the idea for NATO Defense Innovation Accelerator was born. I'm just giving an example, and I continue calling that we, the smaller countries, we must insist on integrating our defense industry and science into the large European defense projects. Another major challenge Europe is facing is how to find the money for Mario Draghi's proposal for 800 million euro investment to put an end to economic decline. In my opinion, this requires a very wise balance between public resources and private capital, common industrial and financial policy, and support to the fragile and I could say also fragmented European capital market. At COP29 in Baku last November, I had a very interesting talk with Kristalina Georgieva, the managing director of IMF, about difference between the EU and the US economies dynamic. In her opinion, in Europe, our money are concentrated in banks. There they are safe, but become lazy. Whereas in the United States, the money is concentrated mostly in the capital market. The risk is much higher, of course. However, the profit, the dynamism, and the support for innovations is much greater. So we need to maybe to take example for this type of operation. Europe, of course, is facing other challenges which need to be overcome if we want to see Europe much stronger on the global arena. Will, for instance, Europe continue its moral leadership and important leading role in areas like human rights, rule of law, peace and environmental policies without losing any more competitiveness? In my opinion, in order to succeed, Europe has to reform its management structure and decision-making process to take fast decisions and mobilize resources for strategic ambitions. What we see in monoliths like China and the United States. Nevertheless, I do believe that the united Europe will overcome the current challenges only if continues recognizing the severity of the challenges, if it continues raising its ambitions and undertakes active measures to get out of its comfort zone. By adopting important documents like Raw Materials Act, the European Chips Act, the European AI Act, the European Defence Industry Strategy and Plan, and of course by recognizing that competitiveness is our main priority based on innovations, science and research. Europe is heading towards achieving strategic economy by developing complete and innovative economy, starting from raw materials extraction through essential heavy industry, production and storage of energy from own sources, to digitalization and high-tech manufacturing. In order this endeavor to be successful, it needs the commitment of each member state. And here Bulgaria is taking vital steps forward to contribute to this vision of the European Union. In fact, for many years, we have been developing complete and innovative economy, fully with line to the current and new European vision. We are sixth in Europe in extracting and processing non-ferrous metals like copper and lead. We have developing for years, and we have rich traditions in heavy industry. Our automotive sector is growing exponentially. One of the fastest growing space companies in Europe is a Bulgarian one. You know the strength of our IT sector, and Insight is the first deep tech AI institute in Eastern Europe. We have 50 years track record of safe and reliable operation of nuclear power, and we have strong ambitions to grow up. Bulgaria continues to improve connectivity with all our neighbors, transport, energy, digital, and the good news for us, starting from 1st of January this year is, of course, our full-fledged membership in Schengen, with all the positives that follow from this membership. And not to boring you anymore early in the morning, I would like to wrap up, but adhering to non-plagiarism rules. I would like to finish with some words from the Christmas double issue of The Economist. I liked very much, and they are that political and technological changes will continue creating remarkable opportunities for human progress. In 2024, democracies demonstrated that they are built to take advantage of these opportunities by sacking up unsuccessful leaders, abandoning old ideas, and embracing new priorities. So I wish every success in this forum, and trying once again not just to pinpoint the problems, but trying to figure out, to analyze the very reasons, deep reasons for the problems. Only in this case, I believe we can score success. Thank you for your attention.